It's really great to have you. I'm joined now by two lawmakers who are backing this bill and have been very involved in the process of writing it. They are the chairs of the House Problem Solvers Caucus, Republican Congressman from New York, Tom Reed, and Democratic Congressman from New Jersey, Josh Gottheimer. And Congressman Gottheimer, let me start with you just to pick up on this thread that I was just talking about with Garrett and the problems around this liability question. Are you confident that you can resolve this in a way that won't sink it? I mean, we know McConnell backs this very strongly, and that means that this whole thing potentially could fall apart over this issue if it's not where he decides is an acceptable place. So where are we now, and do you think it's solvable?
I think we'll get there, Casey. Thanks so much for having us. The Problem Solvers Caucus, which Tom and I co-chair, along with a group of senators, Democrats and Republicans, have been working around the clock now for weeks. And we've gotten through most of the issues, and there's plenty other ones that are tricky. But the bottom line is we recognize that we've got to get something done. We can't go home for the holidays without helping people. Between the 200,000 people a day who are getting diagnosed with COVID, people in food lines for the first time, and obviously the small businesses that are going out every single day, we've got to deliver something. So I think we'll work through this. It's tough. You're right, it's tough. But I'm feeling we've got very good momentum and we're almost there.
I'm sensing some optimism, which I'm sure for so many people who are so stressed out, it's a relief to hear that tone in your voice. Congressman Reed, let me ask you about where President Trump stands in all of this. We know that his support or lack thereof for legislation throughout the last 4 years has been critical for getting especially other members of your conference, the House Republican Conference, on board with something. What do you need from the president to get more support in your conference, enough support to get this over the finish line, especially if there are concerns perhaps among progressives and you need more Republican votes to get it done?
Yeah, I think the Republican votes will be there, as we represented in the Problem Solvers Caucus. I mean, we're 25 Republicans, 25 Democrats that Josh and I co-chair, and we're reflective of other members outside the caucus in Congress. And I think what the president will bring to the table, and you know, as we have demonstrated, and we've kept them informed, working with Mark Meadows and others and Stephen Mnuchin over the last few months, trying to get to this point where we're razor close to a deal being done. There's just some thorny issues, as you've been pointing out, with Garrett and others, that need to be resolved here at the end. But I think the president wants to get a deal done. You saw a commentary that he made at a press pool last week, where, we're getting there. We're getting closer. And I would just tell you, I think the president recognizes that, for purposes of getting through COVID, we got the vaccine coming out this week, getting this relief bill to the table, to the signature phase, and delivering this relief to the American people is part of something I think he wants to be part of. And I know that his team has been working with us in order to get this done.
Congressman Gottheimer, let me ask you about something that's been at the forefront for members of your party, and that is aid for state and local governments. We've heard a lot of Republicans express concern about sending money to blue states, but it does seem as though that your bill includes some money for state and local governments. Is that issue resolved? Are you happy with where things stand, or is it still under discussion and potentially a problem that you'll have to resolve here this week?
I mean, we had a 3-hour call yesterday, and I think we're within inches, not just of the entire package, as I said before, but of that issue as well. I mean, it's there was a meeting this morning about it. We're continuing to go back and forth. The bottom line is it's a tough one too, but we've made enormous progress. And Casey, the point is, on all of these issues, I think when you look at the package in totality, the key is to remember it's a short-term emergency relief package, right? To get us through the first months, through a very tough winter, into the new administration. And so all of our focus has been, how do we help people through this tough time? How do you make sure our state and local governments can pay cops, firefighters, and teachers? How do we make sure that we've got vaccine distribution, as Tom talked about, and food assistance, and helping our small businesses, making sure that there's an eviction moratorium so people aren't thrown out of their homes right at Christmas time? It's been really our focus these last weeks, and I think we'll get there.
Congressman Reed, let me ask you about one other. Congressman Gottheimer just listed off a series of priorities and places we know people really need help. I mean, there's obviously bipartisan agreement on those things. One thing that hasn't been on the table in these conversations has been an extension of the program that lets people take paid leave if they have COVID or if a relative has COVID. Why has that not been part of this conversation?
Well, obviously there's been a lot of issues that have not made it into this emergency relief negotiation and bill because as we put this together and we laid out the $900 billion, we were really trying to find those common ground areas to get to 80% type of lines. And when it came to not only leave, but some other issues, the direct payment question and things of those nature, we just said, you know what, this is where we can agree. It's critical we get the relief flowing now. We missed an opportunity, in my humble opinion, when the $1.8 trillion was on the table before the presidential election. But that's water under the dam. So we built this from the bottom up and working in a bipartisan, bicameral, meaning senators with us in the Problem Solvers Caucus and us in the Problem Solvers Caucus, standing with senators, we're in the best position to deliver relief to the people back home. And I will tell you, that relief is needed given where we're at with the virus.
All right, Congressman Reed, before I let you guys go, I do have to ask you about the Washington Post report over the weekend that nearly 90% of your colleagues on Capitol Hill have not said or acknowledged, rather, that Joe Biden is the president-elect. I know you personally have congratulated Joe Biden, but I'm wondering what you think this means for a country that is battling the biggest crisis in a generation to have almost the entirety of your party not accept this transfer of power in a straightforward way, the way we always have in our democracy?
Well, obviously I offer my position of recognizing the president-elect and on Joe Biden's position as that title. And what we have to do is ensure that every vote is counted, every accurate vote is done. But we're at that point where that has to come to a conclusion. And I am very confident. And as the president said, when the Electoral College votes, and that process is completed, the transition of power will occur in America, and that's what made America different than any country that's out there. We go through the transition of power in a peaceful, honorable way, and we're going to do that again here in short order.
All right, Congressman Tom Reed and Congressman Josh Gottheimer, I want to thank both of you. And here's hoping that for all of the people who are out there who are hurting, that they can understand that it's the kind of work that you guys are doing here that we unfortunately don't see enough of these days in Washington, that actually is what it takes to get help out the door to those people. So here's hoping that for the holidays, we can have a little more of that here in our country. So thank you both.